All right, today, working from Psalm 126, which is called A Harvest of Joy. So let me read a little bit of it. When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dream. When our mouth was filled with laughter and our tongue with shouts of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things, and we rejoiced. Well, I don't know about you, but I personally would enjoy being joyful. I would enjoy being joyful all the time. I would settle for 51% of the time. I think I might be able to do that. 51%? I bet I can. I love the Psalms that talk about joy. When I see Psalms that talk about joy, and especially the words joy in the Lord, I like that. I want to work for that. But I'm not going to pretend that that's an automatic thing. I wish I could just turn on joy, and just say, okay, I'm deciding right now to be joyful. It's difficult. There's lots of things that get in the way. Lots of grief, lots of sadness, lots of different confusing emotions in the world we live in. And so it's not always right there. But I want to talk about it today. The Psalms also talk about being happy, but I don't think of happy as the same thing as joyful. Being happy in the Lord, the fact that it's in the Lord makes it solid and enduring, but happy sounds like happenstance or something that happens or that we're lucky that it happened. And frankly, I want something much bigger for myself and for you than luck or chance. So I do want some happiness too. I mean, of course I do. I get happy when I drink espresso, but it has its limits. If I drink an espresso, I feel a little happier. If I try to drink 20 espressos, happy is not the word for it. Shaking is more the word. So in this message, I'm not talking about happiness, though. I'm talking about the more secure form of joy, an attitude that's anchored in God's love and in our love for others, the love for others that comes from God. The opening line of that psalm, when the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dream. Now, Zion in the Bible is a big word. Zion can mean, in general, the people of God. Zion can mean the Jews as the people of God. It can mean Mount Zion, the place where Jerusalem is. When Zion has suffered loss and the Lord has restored them, they are talking about something really big. Picture some of the great movements in the history of Israel. The Lord saved the Jews from starvation by bringing them into Egypt. The more famous story is the story of Moses, where God brings them out of Egypt, out of slavery. But hundreds of years before that, the reason they came to Egypt to begin with was God saved them from starvation. And generations later, when they were slaves in Egypt, the Lord brought them out of Egypt. Even once they were out of Egypt, they had new problems. For 40 years, they were wandering in the wilderness of Sinai. Very, very hot and dry place. Hundreds of years later, they were taken captive by the Babylonians. And each of these cases, though, when the Lord brought them into the promised land, or when the Lord brought them back from Babylon, that was a time of great rejoicing, a time of joy. When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dream. I had to do some searching about that word dream because a dream can be good or bad. I have very vivid dreams. Some of them are nightmares that I don't want to go back to. But a dream as something that includes some hope and some vision for what is possible in life, that's a good thing. The psalm goes on with this. It's not just a, yeah, we were really joyful. It's a very concrete, specific image of what that joy looked like. Then our mouth was filled with laughter, our tongue with shouts of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord had done great things for them. The Lord had done great things, and we rejoiced. Spontaneous laughter, shouts of joy, because God has done great things for us that are so great that everybody around us is talking about it. The source of joy and laughter and the good kind of dreams is the great work that God has done. Last week in California, it was a really, really interesting week. Here we are, years into a major drought, one of the driest times in our known history in California. But then there came this, it was described as a giant fire hose of water coming into Central California and Northern California. It was a huge event in nature that we can't just turn on and off. I think that our effect on global warming in general has a lot to do with this. But in a specific sense, in a week-by-week sense, there's nothing we can do to turn that on or turn that off. And so we prayed. We prayed specifically that the people who were going to get that rain, that it would be all good news and not a disastrous thing when the bare land from the fire areas were filled with water. Thankfully, as far as I know, there were some landslides over freeways, but not into people's homes. So, I can choose to see the great possibilities of life, of nature, as long as I can, and to try to find a home in my mind for the emotions of hope and joy. Now, the second half of the psalm is about a very specific thing that we find both in southern Israel and in the great southwestern deserts of the United States, where you have a very, very dry area like Death Valley here, and sometimes you'll find a bridge crossing over what they call a river, but it's not a river, it's a river bed, and there's only days or hours in a given year where there's actually water in that dry riverbed. They call it the water courses or the wadis or the dry riverbeds of a desert. Now, if you're trying to survive in the desert, and you want to survive partially by planting crops or by planting grasses that your animals can feed on, there's something very weird that you have to do. And that is in the middle of the dry season, when it's just cool enough that you can stand to be outside, you have to take a plow and you have to plow up those water courses. Because otherwise, it'll be like the surface of a swimming pool. When the water comes, it hits that hard surface and just flows on out, and it's gone. But if you've done the hard work of breaking up the ground, of plowing that hard dirt so that water can get into the soil, then when you have that moment when water comes through again, it has some place to go. And some of it can remain inside the soil for future growth. I think about this when I think about this particular era in our lives where everything changed. In addition to all of the things that are happening in your life personally, there's this big thing of the pandemic that changed everything that we can do, that really restricted us in so many ways. And somehow I think this plowing up the dry water courses, somehow that makes sense. And it makes me ask myself, what am I doing right now? What hard work am I doing right now that can prepare us, me, you, so that in the more fruitful times, when the water comes, when normality returns, that some of that can soak in and really have some benefit. So I wonder, what are we doing? Thank you for all the people who have done the tremendous work in the medical communities and in the research communities for your work in vaccinations. I am really hoping and praying that this current possibility about vaccinations for children, that will bear fruit, and that even this year we will be able to have families gather together for the holy days, for Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and Christmas, for New Year's. And if we prepare now, if we do the things necessary for our healing now, we are breaking up that hardened ground and opening ourselves up for the blessing that may come. So God bless you, and in the fruitful times to come, may your life be filled with all that is needed to be ready to receive life, to grow, and to return to something even better than before. God bless you. Amen.